Welcome to the Eltropy Exchange podcast, where leaders of community financial institutions connect, learn, and stay ahead. In each episode, we sit down with industry executives, innovators, and experts for candid conversations about the challenges and opportunities shaping CFIs today. At Eltropy, we believe conversations matter. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Eltropy Exchange. My name is Mike Pupil, Vice President here at Eltropy, and today I am joined by none other than Kris Frantzen, Vice President of Product Strategy from Temenos. Kris, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Michael. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Well, I'm excited because we are on the road a few times over the course of the year. We were just talking about how depressing it is sometimes to come home to an empty fridge and weird to sleep in your own bed. But we are both officially home to do this podcast,
Yes,
right before a weekend as well. So good to see you back in your home spot.
At least temporarily, yes. Especially this time of year, the fall we know is conference season. So those airline and hotel miles, they rack up pretty quickly this time of year.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Kris, what I'll do is I'm going to introduce you to those that are listening, those that are watching. I don't know if there's any other mediums that we have to do this, but for those listening and watching, Kris Frantzen. Kris has spent the last 24 years, at least we were trying to do the math together, in the software and service space, focusing on loan and account origination, as well as collection solutions for both banks and credit unions. In his role as VP of Product Strategy at Temenos, Kris is responsible for developing and innovating on the life cycle management suite within Temenos, which addresses onboarding, collections, and recovery solutions. Kris is also a published thought leader who has spoken at various industry conferences, which we were just chatting about, and manages the relationship between strategic accounts and product evangelists. So all while providing input on strategy and direction for that lifecycle management suite solutions. So Kris, I normally start this podcast with every other leader out here, which is, you have roughly about a quarter century of experience in here. How did you get started in financial software space, and more specifically with credit unions and banks? Take us to the beginning, Kris.
Well, I think back when I started was actually, and this is, I mean, the number of years sort of puts a date on how long I've been at this, but I answered a very small, a square inch ad in the wanted ads in the newspaper for a company called GHR Systems that just said it used, I think at the time it said applying software to the mortgage space. And so I went and interviewed, and that got me into the space of technology and software for financial institutions for mortgage loan origination. Now, this was the early 2000s. So was in that space when everything happened. The movie The Big Short, I was kind of had a front row seat. We were fortunate enough to kind of, as that was happening, we got acquired by Metavante at the time. Coming to Metavante then allowed me to branch a little bit more beyond mortgage into consumer loan origination. That ultimately became FIS, and when it was time, I stayed with FIS for a while, and it was time to move on. When you stick around long enough, you hopefully make some connections, and I had with some folks who had come to a company called Accelerant, and Accelerant was a company that started with collection capabilities, had expanded recently into loan origination and account origination, had just been acquired by Temenos. So came over to Accelerant, then Temenos, and that's where I've been. Was really a natural fit because it was sort of a progression in everything that I had done with loan origination in the financial services space, banks, and what was really appealing was the amount of work that Accelerant Temenos did and continues to do with credit unions, who are such great organizations to work with. And it also allowed me an opportunity to learn sort of another aspect with collections. So That is what brought me here over all those years. It's funny, I could tell that story very compressed. There were a lot of, obviously a lot of trips, a lot of projects, a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of people, places, names that come across. But yeah, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
Well, I love it. And you're the second person that has mentioned a newspaper ad. So shout out to Lona Jensen, who's the Chief Member Experience Officer at Altru, and asked the same question to her, how did it start in the credit union space? And she was actually born and raised in Denmark. And when she came over to the United States looking for a job, it was a newspaper that got there. And she made the same comment. But, both things existed back in the day.
You're hard to believe, but yeah, that's how people found new jobs from time to time.
Yeah, hard to believe, but I got to tell you, because there's more than one, and for the vast majority of people that I ask, how did you get started in the industry? Everybody starts off the same way, and it's always an accident. So I needed a job. I was walking through campus. I opened up a newspaper. It was something that was unexpected. What I think is magical about that and why I love asking that question at the beginning is because, everybody that has been on has a pretty significant profile in the credit union space, right? Like we just saw each other a couple of weeks ago. We were both at America's Credit Unions Collections and Bankruptcy Conference out in Louisville, Kentucky. You were speaking at that event. So was I. We run into each other a few times and, we're trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of where the market is going. What are the trials and tribulations? Things like, are they going to stay taxes exempt or are they going to get that stripped away, which would have a massive impact, and all while they're trying to sail the ship in the same direction and utilize technology to stay competitive, right? And it's amazing how many leaders in this space who have become addicted, which I think we both have that bug now, as well as they do, that it was just by accident. It wasn't a plan. It's just something you tend to fall in love with, and the passion resonates. And that's why we were so excited to have you on the podcast, Kris. So I think your
Absolutely.
story resonates.
Yeah, it was it was interesting because we talk about the conferences, and I was just earlier this week at the America's Credit Union. I'll always call it CUNA Tech. I know it, but it's the America's Credit Union Operations and Member Experience, and this sort of plays into as well. I think how the industry continues to evolve. It was really interesting first to see how many people from the credit unions for whom it was their first time at that conference.
Right.
That's one that we've been going to, and there was folks from Eltropy there, right? We've been going there for as long as I've been with Temenos. So this is probably my 10th, if not more, of that conference. But so many people, it was their first time, and they were relatively new to the credit union, but their role was member experience, or it was data analytics or AI type folks. But when you talk about the bug, a lot of them would say, well, I've been with the credit union, or I've been in the credit union space for 2 or 3 years. And they said that's the point you get to where then you'll never work anywhere else. They say, because it's so nice to work there, and that's why you walk into a credit union and you go around the table and how long have you been there, and you'll hear 20 years, 27 years, 34 years, right? So yeah, once they've been there a couple years, they're now indoctrinated, or I think there's a better word than that, but they've now caught the bug and they won't leave, and it's true of us who get to work with credit unions too.
Yeah. Drinking the Kool-Aid, caught the bug, all the analogies that you're
Yep.
you're addicted. You're addicted to the space, you're addicted to the people, you're addicted to the mission. And I think there's a lot of satisfaction in doing that. And like, nothing's perfect. The world is all crazy, everything, there's noise all around and there's trouble all around. But when a group of people stay committed to that vision, I think that's what makes it very special. And you're so right about the longevity in terms of credit union. In fact, anytime that you hear somebody say, I've been with the credit union for 2 years, and then oftentimes, but the credit union that I worked before that was 18. The credit union you worked before that was another 10. And so still in the space
Right.
for that length of time. So I think it's great. We all run in the same circles, and that's what helps us all build together as a team. Uh, On that note, Kris, Temenos is one of the major driving forces of technology in the credit union space, certainly in banks, but the vast majority of our listeners are in that credit union space. Talk to us a little bit about the customer priorities, automation and data and digital first world that everybody is pressing on. Speaking of addiction, the addiction to these little devices that we carry on our phones and enabling us to be able to do things. Talk to us a little bit about the opportunities and challenges that you see in the market from an automation, data, and technology standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. It all boils down to meeting the expectations of the consumer, whether they're an existing member or whether they're a prospective member to the credit union, right? Their expectations, and there are expectations, right? It's not like the membership base. I mean, I'm a member of a credit union, so I know it firsthand. What do I expect? I expect to be able to do things on this. I expect my experience to be personalized. I saw the tagline, if you know me, show me. I don't want a one size fits all experience. I want, especially when it comes to financial services, I want them to be embedded in what is pertinent to me in my life. I want them to be contextual. I want them to be personalized. I want them to be convenient. And that's the expectation. So meeting that expectation requires all of those things, right? It requires a focus on recognition that everything has to be not only digital, but it has to be that word omnichannel, right? It has to be on demand when and where is most convenient and appropriate. It has to be personalized, and that's where leveraging data. What do you know about me? What's available about me? I mean, I know data about me is all over the place, so we might as well take advantage of it and give me offers and give me experiences that are personalized and also quick. And so when it comes to quick, that means to the FI needing to have things that are automated, and all of that has to be done. When we talk about financial services, that all has to be done compliantly. That all has to be done securely. So the challenges just in meeting those expectations are numerous, but those that do it successfully have a tremendous opportunity to win, not only against other credit unions, but against banks, against these fintechs, anyone who's offering those type of services and products.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the statistic now is that there's people that have about 7 different digital wallets, everything from like a Starbucks account to, uh, I do bet 365 for the football season.
Yeah.
Although we're not going to get into that.
Okay, I was going to say.
The reason why I keep those bets a little lower. Well, on a more serious note, and maybe to touch on this, budget season is coming up. We were talking about the fall where there's conference season, end of year. What are some of the biggest pain points that you're hearing, and are they tied to automation and data and how to use that and leverage that to make better decisions, or are you seeing something different in this season?
No, I think that's right on. Automation and how can we use data more effectively are those things that I think are top of mind, and using those things to enrich those experiences that we have, those digital first experiences, and expand what we can do in those digital channels. But it boils down to how can we expect, unfortunately, that delinquencies may stay a little bit higher than we're comfortable with. How do we manage that without having to drastically increase staff, or even worse, reduce the level of service that we provide? How do we bring in new members, and how do we do new loans with efficiency, right? How do we bring in these new applications without having to double, triple our staff, right? And so how can we intelligently automate in these spaces? And then again, when it comes to how do we appeal to new members, how do we appeal to our existing members? Tell us how to use data to drive that automation, whether it's making our own staff more efficient or leveraging technology and I know we can't have a conversation about technology. I think, as you said at the last conference, you can't have a technology conversation without talking about AI and machine learning. So to me, that also now boils down to how do we effectively do that? How do we take that from what is now a buzzword or an acronym that could mean different things to different people and turn it into meaningful use cases?
100%. There's so much to unpack there. I couldn't agree more. And the big piece, I held up the cell phone before. The big piece that at least, Eltropy is trying to combat, and I believe that this is where you were going with this, is also to combat, the industry of like payday lenders, right? They've made it so easy to interact with their tool, to push and pull, information and get, something to somebody as soon as they need it. Kind of that tagline, anytime, anywhere, on any device, which is like the rallying cry behind the technology, at least on the hardware side, in order to be able to interact with all these services. And it's, if you don't, respond within seconds, forget about minutes, seconds, it's almost like you move on to, whatever is next. So on the lending side, speed is absolutely key. Right. And so if you're taking too long and someone else is going to give it to me, I'll go there. And almost like the Bruce Lee, like, be water, wherever the path leads the fastest, that's where it's going to go. And payday lenders have done an excellent job of leveraging technology to increase speed. Putting a lot of pressure on, organizations like credit unions that really rely on the more humane relationship to drive that business, where now the next up and coming group, they prefer speed. They prefer technology. That's the relationship that they want to have. They want to have that digital relationship.
Yeah, it's convenience. Yeah, so it's convenience above all else, right? And I sort of related to, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and what'll drive me nuts is that there's a convenience store, a Wawa for those of us on the East Coast, that's within walking distance. And when I see she got into this habit where she was door dashing it. And it's like, it's not worth paying double for what you could just walk to or ask, or just have a quick drive to. And I think that's part of it too, especially when it comes to financial services, and especially for a younger generation who's going to be taking out a car loan. They're buying their first car, or eventually they're going to buy their first home. That it's also a matter of finding a way to interject education into that process, so that somebody can recognize, I don't have to go to this payday lender and pay 29% interest. I can do this the right way. and I can get the products and services that are more appropriate for me at a better price, just as conveniently as I can through these other guys.
It is wildly addicting. I was laughing there because did you say 15, 1-5?
1-6 now, yeah.
1-6, 16-year-old daughter. So you have a 35-year-old daughter, mentally, 16 going on CEO. And so the big piece to this, I've got a 15-year-old nephew. And there was one time that, I'm headed over to my sister's. I see him through the window, and I give him a phone call. I can see him on the phone, and he ducks the call. And so then I send him a text message, and I say, "Hey, Nico, I'll be there in a minute." And he responds lightning quick and says, "Okay, Uncle Mike, I'll see you soon." Now I ring the doorbell, and I'm like, "Oh, you like, I saw you through the window." "Oh, Uncle Mike, I was on my phone. I didn't want to pick it." Yeah, yeah. I think that's just, it has become a communication channel of choice. And so you need each one of those channels, like what you were talking about before, to allow the member to choose their own adventure. And then whatever that channel is, we have to develop the best experience for that member in order to have that relationship grow. That way, when there is a more serious conversation or something that requires a face-to-face or a phone conversation, God forbid, there's a little bit more engagement that comes from it. I totally right on. And if you're now Ubering Eats something, 16 or 10 minutes away, walking distance, we're conditioned, not that I want to use the word lazy, it's service, fast and convenient service. And I am willing to pay for service. And I think most humans are. Now, I don't think we're going to change humanity, because who doesn't want something just delivered to the door? It's why Amazon, has the next day delivery, and why they've become who they've become. going back to the early 2000s and where they've grown from, right, as an online bookstore to owning the planet. But can we get people addicted to the vegetables, right? Like, can we get people addicted to going into the credit union or working with the credit union because they're not going to charge 400%? They're going to keep it reasonable. And like, they're giving you the good food. It's just, who wants to go to the credit union? It's the vegetables, but it's the healthiest thing that you could do financially.
Right. Yeah.
Weird analogy. I don't know where the
I like
start running with this on some of my speaking deck moving forward.
Credit unions, the vegetables of the financial services world. No, I love vegetables. And but it is, it's making folks recognize that they're healthy, but it's just as convenient. Yeah, there's the tools are there to be able to do that, and making sure that the credit unions are focusing on that. Like, again, as you said it, you're not going to change human nature, so you have to adapt and make the tools available that appeal to folks, and it's not, and some of the basic things that that Amazon have done, and you look at Rocket Money on the mortgage side, right? I said back then, Rocket Money, it's not rocket science what they've done, right? It's not that it's simple, or I should say not that it's easy, but it's relatively simple and straightforward, and it's something that any financial institution can do if they work with the right partners and they have the right focus.
100%. Perfect pivot, because Temenos has a unique perspective because you guys are global in nature, right?
Yeah.
Now, I was lucky enough that you guys invited me to TRF, and I got to, see some of you guys down in Miami, where there was the strategic vision and I think a renewed focus on the North American financial institutions and a real dedication to it. At least I saw it, personally when we were down there. What I would love is maybe let's spend a little bit of time talking about, Temenos's roadmap, what you guys are focused on, the future ready solution that you guys are coming up with. Spend a couple of minutes, Kris, for those that did not attend and those that are Temenos users or looking at Temenos, talk a little bit about your strategic roadmap and your vision.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first of all, you said it, Temenos as a whole does an awful lot for an awful lot around the world. And that's everything from our core banking solution to a payments platform to wealth management that we do for financial institutions, large and small, all over the globe. And we've implemented our core solution and our payment solution here in North America, in the U.S., and in Canada and in LATAM. Certainly what I focus on and what we focus on in the credit union space is our digital onboarding and account origination, our consumer loan origination, and our collections and recovery solutions. And really what we are looking to use the term future ready. And that's what we're really focused on, both from a technology perspective to deliver all of these solutions as SaaS or cloud first solutions that deliver flexibility to the business unit, so configurability. It's not a one size fits all platform. Openness through open APIs. But where we're focused with our roadmap is kind of distinct in the different areas. So from an origination perspective, it is really predicated on those digital first and omni-channel experiences and being able to offer those across the full suite of loan products that the credit union wants to offer, right? I think it's beyond just personal loans and credit cards. Most can do a beginning to end, quote unquote, lights out if it's a $10,000 personal loan for an existing member, with good credit. It's being able to expand into a home equity line of credit for somebody who's got a couple dings on their credit in the past. How do we bring as much automation as possible? Or indirect auto, how do we bring as much automation into that process? But really predicated on that those experiences are going to be digital first, and that the role of the loan origination system is going to be that of sort of an orchestrator of automated activities. And so our roadmap is kind of predicated there, focused on things like OCR, continued focus on integration with tools that drive automated decisioning within the solution, and providing that end-to-end automation. When it comes to collections, really everything that we do is sort of predicated on the understanding that the way in which financial institutions do collections is evolving at an accelerated pace. And it's evolving in the fact that, like origination, more digital first engagement, whether that's through text messaging, whether that's through self-service channels, that it's predicated on, again, leveraging automation as much as possible so that the staff can focus on the people and the scenarios that need high touch. And it's predicated on coming back to data, using data to clarify, guide, and ultimately predict what is the optimal strategy to take on a person by person basis. So those are the things, and certainly there it's focused on digital engagement. It's focused on tightening our integration and partnership with Eltropy, because of the focus there that what you guys do so well, on the front end communication side, and it's focused on intelligent and meaningful use cases of AI and machine learning, right? Kind of demystifying that. How can we capture and utilize data effectively for meaningful use cases that are going to provide lift to the FI?
Yeah, and you mentioned the partnership, and we're incredibly grateful for the partnership. In fact, I think our partnership has the most amount of integrations with credit unions and FIs, as a whole within Eltropy. And we continue to innovate together. We continue to try to take feedback from credit unions and some of the community banks in terms of what is it that we're working on to make things better. Going back, I'm silly. What I should have probably led with as a question, what you just explained, does that fall under the lifecycle management suite that you're talking about? Because you were going from beginning to end, origination to collections. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I always explain it as a coin. You can't collect unless you lend. And unless you're lending properly, you may have a problem, or it may go pretty easy on the collection side. So take a half step back. I should have probably led with a question of lifecycle management, which would have flowed a little bit better to what you said. But maybe take a half step back, because I did mention it in your bio. And for those that may not necessarily know, give a little bit of background on what it is that you lead internally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, that's where the term lifecycle management suite came from, right? We support a platform that has distinctly licensable modules for account origination, loan origination, collections, and recovery. And again, so you obviously want to onboard the new member, hopefully you lend to them, and then, as we say, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and those accounts go delinquent. And I know we've talked about it as well. Hopefully that delinquency is just a blip in what is otherwise a long and fruitful membership and relationship with that member, and obviously taking the right steps to manage collections in an empathetic and efficient and convenient fashion goes a long way there. And then we have our recovery module as well, that is sort of a companion to collections when the FI wants to more effectively manage the charge-off process and beyond. And then we have the benefit of also having a best-in-class digital platform that can accompany those modules to provide for that kind of omnichannel front end to all of that. So really a very well-rounded capability that we provide. We have so many of our credit union customers, you'll hear that they work with us for loan origination and collections. And hey, we just added account onboarding, or we've just added recovery. So we're proud of that fact that we can offer comprehensive solutions, and that so many of our customers take advantage of all of that. And I think it also really helps in having that, I guess, that view of both sides of the coin, as you would say, because kind of as I mentioned, we've seen a convergence of the drivers in this space, that so many of the drivers that have driven the loan origination or the origination space over the past number of years are now driving the collection space, digital first, automated decisioning, things of that nature.
Yep. Yeah. And we've got, yeah, I get really excited, and sometimes I pigeonhole myself a little bit because I am more on the collection side of the business, but we've got some phenomenal integrations together on the lending side. And, the way that I look at it is, kind of like a 5-course meal. And like the more that you have that is being cooked from the same kitchen, the greater the expectation of consistency will come, right? If you get 5 different meals from 5 different places, who knows what happens. You also mentioned before that you have the expectation of being communicated to in a more personalized way. Well, what is the least personalized, experience when you get to have a conversation, digital or traditional, where you explain your story and this is what you'd like to do. You get transferred over to another department. You have to tell your story for a second time, and then you get transferred again. And you have to tell your story for a third time, right? Left hand's not speaking to right hand, or you're just going through the process, having to repeat yourself. By streamlining communication and kind of encompassing that life cycle management suite, now you get the benefit of the contextual experience of the member or the customer, so that even the reason for the loan or what the product is, and where they are. Identify if it's a blip, they spent a little too much money on a vacation, or are they really going through financial hardship, so that either on the lending side, whether you're supposed to originate the loan because there's a couple of blips, but not so bad, let's let it pass and let's make it easy. To the collection side, is this somebody that we can work with, or is the portfolio in danger of exploding? Right. And so all of those insights make everybody's job so much easier.
And if anybody who's watching this, they can understand that the East Coast sun, so I'm outside of Philadelphia, is now hitting just right on my office window to give this. This is not CGI. This is just whatever this aura is that's now encompassing me here. But I apologize for that. But
Say it's
yeah,
the universe agreeing with us,
yeah.
Kris, that it's shedding light on the
We'll
story.
go with that. Yes, yeah, there we go. There's our heading, shedding light on any of this. Now, well, and I'll sort of add, I think that's one of the other reasons why we're so bullish and so appreciative of our partnership with Eltropy, because it's yes, I think providing that consistency to the member is critical, but also being able to work with a partner who can work with us on the origination side and the collection side also provides that consistency to the credit union, right? They don't have to work with multiple partners and multiple solutions. They don't have to do their digital communication, text messaging on the origination side differently than they do in the collection side, right? Because we know that in and of itself introduces some challenges to the FI themselves, and yeah, I mean, ultimately you can't avoid that not looking different to your member, right? Hey, wait, I received something, or I went through a digital experience on the origination side, and now on the collection side it's completely different. Or I did a credit card, and now I'm doing an auto loan, a direct auto loan, and it's completely different. So that consistency, I think, is not only important to the member, but it's hugely important to the credit union and their staff too.
Percent. Well, before we wrap up, Kris, I've got a couple of questions for you that I'm gonna throw your way. The first one is, what can leaders and FIs expect to hear from Temenos as we look into 2026 in terms of new products or features? Is there anything that's upcoming that you wanted to mention that people should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, we're really excited about continuing to push our own native artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities into collections first and foremost, as well as into the origination space. I think we're going to continue to see us continue to drive our strategy forward with partnerships, and I think additional things ahead, specifically with our integration with Eltropy, but with other partners as well, continuing those integrations. That's something every customer I talk to, I say, we're going to focus on the things that we do well and what our core competencies are, and we are going to continue to partner with best-in-breed solutions and strategic partners to complement what we do. And we're going to do that ourselves. We're going to do that through continued evolution of our open APIs. Those are certainly things that we're excited about. Digital collector capabilities that we're rolling out, and a whole bunch of other stuff that we continue to talk about kind of with our roadmap. I just did a roadmap webinar last week for all of our customers. We do that twice a year. Yep, and continuing to move all of that into our SaaS environment, working very closely with Microsoft there, so that customers who want to continue to get out of the system hosting business can leverage our expertise and investment in SaaS delivery. Those that want to continue to host systems can do that. But yeah, an awful lot that we're working on there, both on the technical and the functional side, that I think our customers are really excited to take advantage of over the next 12 months.
It's a lot. I had one more, but now you just opened Pandora's box for one more question.
Okay.
Here's, it is a lot. And even in tech, the speed of change happens pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What's a piece of advice that you would give to credit union leaders looking to stay ahead of the curve of this rapidly changing environment in tech? What do you tell credit union leaders? And I promise I have one more question before I make you go blind with the sun coming into your eyes.
I think in all of this, what has a tendency to get lost, there's a rush to, hey, we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of this new capability or of this technology. And what I think the biggest piece of advice is always to stay anchored to your why. What is the reason that we're doing this? What is the use case that we're employing here? Because when it comes down to it, usually there are a couple of different ways that we can go about accomplishing that. It could be, hey, you're not taking advantage of something that's available to you today. And there might be there's an existing partnership or integration that we have that can accomplish that. But for instance, just saying, hey, we need to be using AI, right? And it's like I certainly understand that sentiment, but all right, let's first focus on what is it we want to accomplish, and then we can decide what technology tools, what system functionality, what integrations can help you accomplish that. So I think that's really critical in any of these is having meaningful why, because then you can have meaningful goals. So when it's all said and done, you complete the project, and is it accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish?
Excellent advice. I'm glad I asked one. Okay, I promise. Last question, because I know that we see each other so often, and you are always so generous with your time whenever you are at events. You're always a frequent speaker. What are the key events that you and maybe Temenos as a team are going to this fall? We've got 3 months left in the year. You guys are probably very busy. I know the Eltropy team is pretty much everywhere all the time. Where are you going? Where's the team going? Anything that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I think a couple of key things. We've got, I know we've got Go Max West is in a couple weeks, and we'll be there with you guys. We're actually hosting something for our customers, a roundtable on digital account opening. That'll be out on the West Coast. So we're looking forward to that. We've got Money 2020 that Temenos will have a presence at. I mentioned we just came back from America's Credit Union, the operations and member experience. We have lending at the beginning of November that I'm sure we'll see you there. And then our customers as well and others will expect to see us in additional webinars that we're lining up. I think we're working on one, just a refresher for all of our folks around the Eltropy integration. And then before we know it, it'll be turn of the calendar, and we'll be into GAC in DC again. So, no rest for the weary, I suppose. But it's great. I mean, I don't know about anyone watching kind of what the situation is of, are they back in the office? Are they hybrid? That's one of the things we can never get enough of, being able to be face to face with folks, and being able to do that at these conferences. If it provides nothing else, it gives us an opportunity to get together, shake hands, and and just
And have a
share
few
stories.
laughs.
Yeah, exactly.
Kris, I promise that was the last question, as the sun comes right into eyesight here. It is always a pleasure. I love seeing you on the road. We always have a great time. You have been always so kind with your time and generosity of answering questions and going through things. I would encourage anybody listening, hearing this, whether you're using Temenos or not, stop by, flag down Kris, flag down the Temenos team, have a conversation with them, find out what it is that they're doing, because there is a ton of stuff that they are working on. And I've had some insights into it, and it's very exciting. And because of that global reach, I think you guys take perspectives of multiple markets, which gives you guys a unique perspective in the North American market, because I will say it, there are some markets that are more advanced in some areas than in North America, and it's time that we catch up, and technology is where we're going to go with this, and we can't fight it. We're not going back to rotary phones, guys. We're moving forward from that. So we gotta work together as a team to figure that out. Kris, thank you so much for joining. I do have $1 or $2 on the Eagles this weekend. So for those that are against the Eagles, I'm sorry, but I'm betting on Eagles fly this weekend. And so hopefully they return back a couple of bucks my way. We'll see about that.
Me too. Go Birds.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Catch us next time on the Eltropy Exchange. My name is Mike Pupil. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay connected, stay empowered. We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Eltropy Exchange podcast. For more insights and resources, visit us at eltropy.com. We'll see you next time.